they're hooking, but they're bending their MPs and they're doing it wrong. And you as a therapist need to observe that, catch that, and then address it so that they're doing it correctly. If you're working with patients with trigger finger or trigger thumb and you're not able to get them better, you might be doing something wrong. And I want to share with you 5 things that you're doing wrong so that we can address them, fix it, and help you as a therapist get better results for your patients. My name is Huang. I'm an occupational therapist and certified hand therapist. Over 10 years ago, like 12 years now, I've opened my therapy clinic, and it's really changed the way I treat my patients. And over 6 years ago, I started Hand Therapy Secrets to share exactly what I do in my clinic to help you to develop your clinical skills in hand therapy. And if you're a therapist and you want to become a certified hand therapist, I'm your girl, I can help you. But let's break it down really simple first, and then we can dive into details like if you are studying to become a certified hand therapist. Number 1, you're going into flexion. Number 2, your splint schedule. Number 3, there's a balance between the muscles, and you might be missing that balance that you need to get. Number 4, home program. And then let's be honest, this home program, what are we doing at home, right? And then number 5, let's have that discussion about when they need surgery, right? So number 1, you've got to stop going into flexion. Like the whole point of a trigger finger, right? So let's just break this down. Let me grab my marker. I love me a marker, right? So when I tell my patients about how long their proximal phalanx is, they're just like, oh my God, I had no idea it's so long. So here's your proximal phalanx. If you look at it from the dorsal side, right, here's how long it is. From the volar side, it's super long still too. So wherever you bend your MP, this is your distal palmar crease, right? That is your metacarpal, and then this is P1, your proximal phalanx. And then right here is essentially your A1 pulley, right? So the A1 pulley holds down your superficialis and then your profundus. Now, when it comes to the tendons, there's pulleys, cruciate ligaments. Pulleys, cruciate ligaments, pulley, cruciate ligaments, right? And what that does is like a sheath that goes around that tendon and holds that tendon down to the bone. And when you have a trigger finger, you have a tenosynovitis. So you have along that sheath, so that tendon, right, the sheath gets a little irritated. So itis is inflammation of the tenosynovitis, right? So that causes that trigger. So it's always described as a little ball, a little knot. And when they flex, what happens in flexion? In flexion, the tendon goes proximal. In extension, the tendon goes distal, right? And so what happens is that ball of inflammation comes up and down through that pulley system, and that pulley system is holding and constantly rub. Imagine chafing and constantly chafing, and then you don't do anything about it. Like, it's gonna be irritated, right? So what happens a lot of times is people tend to sit in a very flexed position. If you think about what we use and do with our hands all day, we're in a like flexion. We're just constantly in flexion. And so one of the most important things that you can do as a therapist when you're working with your patients is to take that MP and move it back, right? Move it dorsal into extension. So we can move, like you often think of like extension here, but we might have to think more minutely into that joint and move it more into extension, meaning more of a dorsal glide that's going to put that joint into more extension. Now the problem is the flexors are much stronger than the extensors generally. Those two flexors along with the intrinsics help to bend the MP. So there's all these structures that pull it into flexion. So number 1, if you're not getting your patients better and you're not getting enough results, you're probably not moving enough into extension, and therefore you're frustrated, they're frustrated. So move more into extension. Speaking of extension, the whole point of wearing a splint is to stop the flexion, right? So if you're stopping the flexion, then why are you constantly doing flexion exercises? Beats me, right? That's the point. So when you are recommending for someone to wear a splint, what's your splint schedule? So a lot of therapists ask me this, like how long should we be wearing it? Can they wear it at night and not during the day. Listen, wearing a splint is really uncomfortable, right? Wearing a splint is really uncomfortable. Nobody wants to have this shit on their hands. But you know what? If you have a trigger finger and you're trying to help someone avoid surgery, then you want to wear that splint all the time. It's a 24-hour gig, right? It's 24 hours. Because what happens is when they take that splint off and they go into flexion, then what happens? They're irritating, they're chafing it. So you have a chafe and then you're like, oh, okay, like let me reduce that chafing, but then now I'm gonna like move it and not wear it, and then you're gonna get chafed again, right? So if you have a trigger finger, then wear that splint 24 hours a day. Now, nothing is broken, right? Your bones are not broken, your tendons are not broken, your ligaments not torn, none of that, right? So you can take it off. You can, advise your patients they can shower, they can wash their hands, all that good stuff. But for the most part, you want them to wear it all the time, and especially at night. And what you're looking for is that there is a decrease in symptoms, right? So what do I mean by symptoms? Everyone's symptoms is different. They can have pain, they can have swelling, they can have clicking. So what happens is the clicking causes the swelling and causes the pain. So what you want to do is you want to stop that clicking. That's why you wear that splint all the time. So, make sure that they're doing it consistently, because within a month's time, you should be able to see like, hey, I'm better. If I'm better, I can get rid of it. But you have to get rid of the clicking completely before you get rid of the splint. Because if you get rid of the splint and you still have 20% clicking, then you know what? Guess what? You still have to wear the splint. And so where most of your patients are going to have a hard time with is that last 20%, right? But your job as a therapist is to help them continue to get extension so they don't have to keep wearing that splint, right? Number three. So number one was, get more extension. Number two is wear that splint so that you can not go into flexion and kind of keep some of the extension. Number three is you got to balance the muscles out. So one of the problems with trigger finger is that there is a muscle tendon imbalance between the intrinsic and extrinsic muscles, right? So I always think about like, why did someone get a trigger finger? How someone gets a trigger finger makes a big difference in terms of how you're treating them, what are the expectations. And if you want to go into more details of that type of stuff, the mentorship program is where I spend a lot of time discussing treatment, and I give you exact step-by-step things that you can be doing. So that's the mentorship program. If you are someone who's studying to become a certified hand therapist and you need to know more about the details of intrinsic versus extrinsic and all that cruciate ligaments, like you need to dive into the details, that's going to be the exam prep program. So when we're talking about balancing the intrinsic and extrinsic, I always think about like, why is that out of place anyway? Most of the time as a hand therapist, we are seeing trigger finger from a secondary problem from a primary problem. So what does that mean? I broke my finger, I have a distal radius fracture, I hurt my wrist somehow or another, and then all of a sudden now I have trigger finger, right? That is a secondary problem. Now some people are going to come into you and they're like, I hear this clicking. So then they have a chronic over time type of thing that just kind of came out of nowhere. And that one's a little bit more challenging because you want to figure out why they have a muscle imbalance, right? So let's just go real simply into how do you balance out the intrinsics versus extrinsics. The intrinsic muscles are the muscles that are in between the hand. So they start in the hand and end in the hand. And they actually end on the sides of the PIP, right? They end on the sides of the PIP. Intrinsic's job is to go into MP flexion IP extension. And then you have your extrinsics that start outside of the hand and end in the hand. So that could be your superficialis and your profundus that helps you to get hook fisting. So one of the problems in terms of trigger finger where you don't have a balance of the intrinsics and extrinsics is as you go, because you are being pulled into too much flexion, you have to really make sure that someone can get a hook fist. When someone can get a hook fist, that means that their intrinsic muscles can get really long and really short. Really short, really long, right? When they're tight in here, you gotta wonder, why are their intrinsics so tight? And you gotta balance out that tightness of the intrinsics with the tightness of your extrinsic tendons. So So muscles only get long and only get short. And so it's your job to figure out what muscles are not getting long enough, right? And then that way you can balance them out and make sure you're exercising correctly. Because otherwise, what is going to happen if your intrinsics are really tight? What does it do? It pulls your MP forward into more flexion. And we need what? More extension. And that's how you're going to really balance and fix it. And there's a lot of ways to do it. It just depends on if you're more hands-on, if you're more exercise-based. I'm sure you've seen this exercise all the time where it's like a pen exercise. And what it does is it helps to extend. So let's say it's a trigger finger here and you are trying to get extension of the MP. So stop making them go into flexion, for God's sakes. Didn't I just say stop making them flex? You want to make them extend. So the exercise when it comes to that is do the pen so that they can have extension at the knuckle where you want them to have extension at, right? And then make them go into wrist extension, finger extension. Because when you go into wrist extension, finger extension, you go into the most long amount of extension, right? So you're getting composite extension. And then what are you getting? MP, let me see if you can see this, MP extension. And then you can get a little bit extra extension, right? So you're always trying to get joint extension, but you're always trying to balance out the intrinsics versus extrinsics. So yeah, think about, you're probably doing the exercise, you're probably just doing the exercise incorrectly, and then that's why you're not able to get the results for your patients. But think about that. So from a manual perspective, you would do like a dorsal glide. From an exercise perspective, you just pick the best exercise for that. So stop going into flexion. You could do tendon glides, right? Tendon glides are just hook fist, full fist, hook fist, full fist, straight fist. But you don't want all that fisting, right? So you might just be doing hook fist. I personally love to do hook fist with my fingers in between. One, because it gets MP extension and you get a little bit of that extra dorsal glide. But two, it helps them to stay in MP flexion. So again, it comes down to execution. If they're hooking, but they're bending their MPs and they're doing it wrong, and you as a therapist need to observe that, catch that, and then address it so that they're doing it correctly. Which brings me to number 4, home program. Like you can teach them all you want. Like I just remember being a patient myself and my therapist just throwing up, a packet of 5 pages of home exercise program and thinking that I have the capacity to do it correctly. Now, granted, I'm a therapist, but back then I was a new therapist. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? So we just got to stop assuming that our patients know what we know. Our patients don't know. They don't spend all day doing hook fisting. They don't spend all day doing joint mobilizations. They don't know how long bones are. They don't know where tissues are at. Even the ones that do research and come onto my videos and watch me, they don't spend all of their time, years, and effort learning about hand and arm injuries. And so when they go and do their home program, they might not be doing it correctly. So it's our job, 1, to pick the correct exercises, and then 2, to be able to explain it in a way that they can actually do it. And then number 3, we've got to monitor that they're actually doing it correctly. I was teaching a patient, and I make videos for my patients. And they still doing it wrong, right? So one of the things I always do with my patients is like, okay, so show me what you're doing, right? Let me make sure you're doing it correctly. It's okay if you're doing it wrong. That's the whole point of coming to therapy. It's so that I can help correct it so that you can make progress faster and better, right? Now, there are some patients, they're not doing their home exercise. Am I going to beat them up for it? No, you're just going to come in more often. Look at that, right? I have this guy I'm working with, and he already kind of told me, he's like, yeah, he's not doing it, right? So I don't make it a big deal. I'm like, hey, listen, considering that you're not doing anything at home, you're looking good, right? If you weren't looking good, I'd yell at you a little extra because I have to, it's not that I'm yelling at somebody, it's that I'm managing their expectations, right? It's always about managing your expectations. It's just like you're watching this shit for free, right? Let me manage your expectations. You take what you want, leave what you don't want, and if you don't get it correctly, it might be through your execution, and you might need a little bit more help. And if you need a little bit more help, my links are below. The mentorship program is a great space to get a lot more treatment ideas and just thinking through your cases and knowing exactly what to do. I'll share with you, I'll teach you, I'll give you more details on it, and then just making sure you're able to execute it correctly, right? If you're someone who is studying to become a certified hand therapist, then that's going to be the program for you. But that program is for someone who's ready to take that exam within the next year. So it's not right for everybody, but it's going to be right for some people. But it really does come down to that execution. So don't beat people up just because they're not getting it, right? Just might have to repeat yourself a little bit. Number 5, when does someone need surgery? Well, someone needs surgery when they're not getting better, right? Actually, let me start over. Someone needs surgery, one, when they want it. People come in to me and they're like, well, help me, I don't want surgery. Right? Whatever I need to do, I'll do. I don't want surgery. Some people are like, I want to consider surgery. I just want to see what I get in that one visit. Right? Honey, you're not getting shit in one visit. It's not that simple. Right? It takes a little bit of effort. So some people aren't willing to put in that effort. I'm not judging. I couldn't care less whether you have surgery or don't have surgery. I'm here to help you based on the thing that you need to do. So if you want surgery, then I will tell you, okay, well, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're not looking for. If you want surgery, these are the things I would expect, right? This is what you're looking for, this is what you want to do. Majority of the time, as a clinic owner, majority of the time people are coming to me because they want to avoid injections and surgery. For my clinic specifically, I just meet them where they're at. If avoiding surgery, right? If you want to avoid surgery, then I will want to see progress within 2 to 3 weeks, right? I would want to see progress within 2 to 3 weeks. Every week I'm looking for something. I'm looking for less pain, less swelling, less clicking. I'm looking to see how committed my patients are, right? So if you're telling me that you want to avoid a surgery at all costs, then there has to be a certain amount of commitment to that goal that you said you wanted, right? If you tell me you want to avoid surgery at all costs, but then you're not wearing your splint, you're not doing the home program, you're doing everything opposite of what I'm telling you to do, then I have to manage my expectation and manage yours, because you're not doing what is required by science, okay? By anatomy, this is what happens, right? So it's just managing and just meeting people where they're at. So if they're looking to avoid it, then I'm going to help them, and I want to see results within 3 to 4 weeks. When I don't see something within 3 or 4 weeks, the problem is coming from somewhere else. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of trigger fingers that I work with, trigger fingers and trigger thumbs, that are coming from the neck. It's beyond the scope of this video, but on my website, I'm going to be teaching a new course, 2026. I don't know when you're going to see this, but I'm teaching a new spine and upper extremity course that's going to be coming out really soon. So if you go to my website under events, you'll see a listing there, and so if you're interested, and join the wait list for that class, because some things are coming out from the neck, the shoulder, and you have, as a therapist, as a hand therapist, you want to find the problem, you want to find the root cause so you can actually fix it, so you're not so frustrated. I hope those things help you with your patients who are suffering with trigger fingers and trigger thumbs, and good luck helping them. If you like this video, like, subscribe, share with a fellow therapist, and if you need my help, all my links are below. And I'd love to see you and work with you on the inside. All right, until the next video, bye.